Okay, so before we continue with mocking the stock, I already created the create stock command, and I also created the create the stock command tests, which is here. And but here there is one change compared to the last test that we wrote. It looks really simple, but it has one trick, one twist, and that would be the product ID. This gonna receive a product ID to create the stock for. So this means that you need to have some data in your database already to have this product ID. So now let's have some data. For that, I have always like a seeders directory, and there is a seed-based class. And what it does, this is an abstract class. You will inherit from it, you will extend it, and what it does, it will read the name of your seeder class, and then will search for an equivalent JSON file inside your data folder, and then it will initialize the data property here, and then you can then execute it, and then you can do whatever you want with this data based on your DB context. So now let's say we want to seed some products, and then here we are going to say product, or let's say products seeder, let's see this, and namespace would be my TestProject service tests that seeders, and public class products seeder, and this is from seeder base. And what I want to deserialize the JSON to will be a list of product, and like this, and then I say just implement my abstract class. Here I have access to the data, and I already have the DB context, and since it's just going to read it to this data, I'm going to also, since I don't have this automated ID assignment for GUID right now on my DB context, I'm just going to go through my data, and I'm going to set the ID myself. And then after that, I'm just going to say that products that add range data, and and then DB context, let's say changes. This way, this is going to add the products, but now you need a product seeder.json inside the data, and put some products there. So it's an array, and then the name would be, let's say, just my test product 1, and then we are going to have the price to, let's say, 0, and then my test product 2, this, and then that's it. And now we have this seeder, and then since maybe only this test collection gonna need this, we are just going to call it here. So we are going to say DB context factory that run with this context, and then we are going to say new seeder base that new products seeder that execute with the context, and then this is just going to execute your seeder and then add the data, and then when it goes here you already have the data. There is one thing that I forgot to mention, is that with this, but since you're using an actual database, you need to truncate the database every time a test is done. So we are going to do that too. So let's go to the test base. We have this migrate database, and we want to clean it right after the migration is done. So the data is added and everything. and we are going to have a new method, clean database, and let's do it like this, and generate method clean database. And here I need this, so run with the context, and here I'm going to clean the products and the stocks. And since the stock is dependent on the product, so if I remove the product first, it's gonna throw the error. So I'm going to first remove the stock and then the product. So here I'm going to say remove the context that stocks, and here the product, and context that save changes. Now, what do you think could possibly happen here? Here you need to actually run your function as a collection, if you don't make it a collection, it will run these tests in parallel, and then this causes that with this clean database, when one test is running, one other test is already done, it will remove the data for this test, and then it brings some conflicts. So in this case, you have to run the tests serially. So this is the collection method, and now let's see what would it need. Yeah, so it's like my serial tests, and since all of the classes are inheriting from this, so now all of them will run in serially. And yeah, so this should be it for the seeder, and it should seed some data. Actually, let's test this. Right now the create stack command is empty. We actually can write it together. So if I run it right now, because of the seeder, I should have some data in my database, in the stocks, in the products. And it's let's see, file not found exception. Says the product seeder.json, products seeder.json is not there. Let's see if it is added there. Okay, so it is not adding it there. There is something with this, I think. Let's try this. Yeah, okay, so that was the thing. Let's also test it again. Yeah, so it meant that do everything inside the data folder, and then if it has a directory, also everything inside there too. So now let's run this again. Part of the path. Okay, yeah, I have not created the DTO for this, so I have to also come here and then do this, and then would be create stock DTO.json, and then my stock going to have the, so here we are not going to set the product ID because we don't know what product ID we should pick. Here we don't have them yet, so we are just going to pick the amount. Let's say we want like 100 pieces or 100 of anything, and but we are going to set the product ID here. So this would be another, so db context factory that run with db context, and context. Here we don't care which product we want to pick. So we are going to just pick the first product. Since we have already set them, there should be one there. And then we want its ID, and then we want it on the product ID here. And then it's all set up. Now let's see. Now it says the method is not implemented. It means that it got to the handle method here. But now let's see if we have also the data for the products in our database. Products. We have the two products that we have already seeded here. So with that, we can now start creating it. So let's start making it past. So here we are going to say var stock is new stock, and it has the product ID of request dot product ID, and the amount is request amount. Forgot. We need the constructor here to get the DB context. And this is upsert, I forget. The upsert is like insert and update, or update and insert. And we have to also create tests right now for the updating, and I'm going to show you how you consider the test cases, because if I want to update now, I have to also seed some stacks already. And then for seeding the stacks, you need also to first have the product ID to assign it to a product, but we are going to check how to do that. So now we have the DB context, and now we are going to say the DB context that stocks that add this stock, and DB context that save changes, and then return the stock ID. Here again, you need to set the ID yourself. In this case, normally you have to have it automatically set in application DB context. You just read all the entries and then read the entity state of those entries and say, okay, if the entity state is insert, set the ID right there before the save changes happen. And so here now we will return that passed it from results the stock.id. And now in my tests, if I run it, it will fail because I'm not passing the context here. So I'm going to reload to see the error. And but I'm also going to do this here. This is the case that you see. If you see, you have two context usage here, but this part is not in real practice when your code is running by the customers or by the website. These two will happen really separately. That's why this DB context usage should not be here. Consider that this has been done. This has been done inside your front end. You have loaded the data already, and now you are sending it back as a second call here. So let's say that now we have to put this here, and we also should not have it like this. Have this, and then var stock ID. Something is telling me that the IntelliSense is not there yet, so I'm going to do this. Or do only sharp, where is it? It's not there. Load, it's not loaded there. We wait. It will be loaded when the test actions are available. But besides that, we also can run tests here. And apparently we are missing something somewhere there. Again, we forgot to put this here. Now all of the tests are passing, but apparently VS Code is not.
One eternity later.
So after some digging at why the IntelliSense was not working, is that I realized that there is a option here in the actions in VS Code, which is going to disable all the extensions, including OmniSharp. And I don't know why when you do this, it doesn't ask you, do you really want to do that? Because it's important. Then you have to enable all the extensions. I just saw this and then saw, okay, why I don't have any extensions.